and I hope that you joined the DevEx program so far. Today, we have a topic, developer experience from hype to reality. Developer experience is a really broad topic, broad enough that some people think that it's a buzzword. So while it's really hard to achieve a good developer experience, it's easy to recognize and spot a bad developer experience. Today, we are going through multiple examples in different stages of the development for developers to see how we can improve the developer experience in any organization. I'm Soroosh, 15 years of experience as a software developer, but nowadays they call me architect in Rabobank. Makan.
And I'm Makan. Like most of you guys, I come from the Java development. 20 years of experience in this industry, and I'm a principal engineer at Khodami. That's like Soroosh, a solution architect at Rabobank. And this is how I usually introduce myself. Java developer by evening, solution architect by the day, and AI enthusiast at the weekend. So let's start how the developer experience started. It all goes back to around the early 2000s when the Agile Manifesto was out and it was shaping the new way of working. There was a lot of articles around the impact of this new way of working on the productivity of the developers. Around 2008, we have the concept of the DevOps, which was changing a little bit more toward more agile way of working. In 2010 and 2012, we have the first articles that were talking about the concept of the developer experience. And then we have new metrics like DORA that goes for the performance of the developers. And then 2019 happens. I remember I was sitting behind my desk, looking at my colleagues in the virtual meeting room, and I was thinking to myself, when will be the next time that I will see my colleague in person? But things happen after 2019. We have a new way of working, mostly on remote and hybrid side, and also the happiness of the developers become an important thing, even part of the hygiene of the organizations to make their developers happy. In 2023, we have the new GPT models, plus all of those AI assistants, AI coding assistants like GitHub Copilot, JetBrains AI Assistant, Amazon Code Whisperer, that was telling us and promising us that there will be an easier life. And if you search through the Google, there's more than 500 talks, articles, and books that are talking about developer experience. There's countless buzzwords around this topic. We have the internal developer portals. We have the concept of the golden pass and bundling of the services in platform engineering. We have all of those promises that are telling us there is a future with zero ops or chat ops. And then we have hundreds of solutions and tools that are telling us, hey, there is a bright future. Generative AI will fix everything for us. But some of them are even conflicting success metrics. 2 years ago, Roy Brom stood in the same stage and asked you guys, what do you expect from the developer experience? What is your expectation? And lots of keywords came up. We have the freedom and flexibility. We have the technology and the challenges. And the salary was right in the middle. But we think that, right, like any other game, there are two sides to this problem. We have talked about the developer experience from the developer perspective. We have talked about the autonomy, the clarity, and the technology and the challenges on the developer side. But there is another side as well. In Product Management 101, they tell you that the most important stakeholder is the one who's paying for the feature. And that's the management part. And what managers want from this developer experience, besides the happiness of the developers, is the value delivery, the fast value delivery, and also the observability, the compliance, and the governance. They want to make sure that you are aligned with their top organizational goals, and they are in control. And we believe that the ultimate developer experience lies somewhere in the balance between the developer expectations and the manager's expectation. We came through this talk with lots of experience, but also we managed to do a lot of interviews and surveys. And during those surveys, we were addressing two different parts of the life cycle of a developer. The first one is developer as an employee of the organization, and the second one is the software development life cycle. As a developer or as an employee, I go through the learning, promotion, temporary leave or leave, and sometimes during the layoff phase as well. But from the developer perspective, this is what I want to do, software development lifecycle. I want to develop something, I want to release it into the production, I want to do an operation, sometimes incident management, and if I'm lucky enough to stay in an organization for a very long time, maybe decommissioning it. The focus of this talk will be on the second part. Not because the first part is not that important. No, actually, it's very important. We were thinking that, hey, we can just imagine that you get up one day and you hear that half of your colleagues has been laid off. Do you have enough focus to actually do your work? I don't think so. But this is not what we are expert on. We are not an expert on the employee life cycle. This is not part of our experience. And I think that it's better to leave it for the experts like the people who are working on the organizational psychology or something like that. But we will focus through the software development cycle, and we will give you true examples, or maybe based on a story example without saying any name, on how the how the optimum developer life experience could look like. And this is our mental model. This is what we came up with. We think that there are two different sides. We have the developers and we have the managers. And from the developer perspective, we want the autonomy, we want the clarity, and we want the flexibility. But from the manager side, we also want the governance, the compliance, and the alignment. And then there is two different words, safety and efficiency, that managers and developers have different interpretation of. And we think that the optimum developer experience lies somewhere between all of those concepts. And we came up with 4 different concepts to wrap up everything that we are thinking about. The first one is the predictability. The second one is the cohesion of the journey. The third one is the accountability. And the last one is the observability. During this talk, we will go through these concepts one by one and give you examples of it. Soroosh.
Thank you, Makan. So the first one is the predictability. And we want to show you the predictability in one of the nice part of the software development, develop and release. But I might need some help from you, because one of the important metrics is time to first hello world. So please scan this code and try to fill the questions. Okay, so as you can see, the question is how long it takes in your organization for you to develop and deploy a hello world application as a minimal application, right? So as you can see, there are different answers here, like 1 or 2 days, a week. Some people also answered a month. And there are some answers like, I don't know. But the question is, does it really matter? The time to first hello world? Yes, kinda, it's important, because it's really insightful and shows how your organization actually performs regarding the innovation and everything like that, right? What are the influential factors for this one are knowledge, infrastructure, security checks, and bureaucracy, right? But I want to mention something, that time to first hello world is important, but what is more important is the predictability. Because if you know how long it takes, you can actually plan it, you can pipeline it, or you're prepared how long it takes, right? So let's go through the influential factor to see how we can improve it. So knowledge. It's obvious that if a senior developer who is in the organization for 5 years can deploy an application way faster compared to someone who joined recently, right? And we also know, based on the researches, that if you have T-shaped engineers, right, they can also perform better compared to the ones that are only knows one specific thing, right? The second one is infrastructure. It's 2024. And it's kind of not acceptable, and there should be no excuse for the organizations to not having automated way for provisioning the infrastructure. Even the banks are using cloud. And even if you don't want to use cloud, there are a lot of solutions in the virtualization services and those like that that helps you, enables you to have automated process to provision the hardware and resources. The third one is security checks. So who likes those security checks before going to production? Okay, I only see few hands. But the truth is, the security checks are really nice for the developers. Why? Because if you want, based on this diagram that I'm showing here, and there are also references to this one, if you fix the problem or identify the problem, any type of problem like issues or security issues, in the early stage of software development lifecycle, you need less effort and cost to fix that issue. So nobody likes to fix an issue in the production, right? And as you can see, the 30x for the production one and 5x in the coding stage. So it's actually a good thing for the developers. But I still understand that if you want to wait for somebody to do the penetration test for you and human intervention is needed, and a lot of slowness and ping and pong, sending message to somebody, and a lot of findings that you need to fix them, it's a little bit annoying, right? But the good news is there are a lot of tools that helps you to automate this process, reduce the risk, but also increase the security. So there is a link in the read more, OWASP DevSecOps guideline that I highly recommend all of you to take a look at it, to see how you can incorporate the tools for the security checks in your pipeline. The last but not least is bureaucracy. So I'm really passionate. I want to deploy the application to production, my Hello World application. But it seems that there is something new here in the organization, that I need to wait for the CAB meeting, and they will give me the green light for going to the production. Well, I don't know these new things, how they will end up in our organization. But, well, I think we all know, right? Someone read a book, and then after a couple of weeks, it ends up in our compliance and the regulation and our processes, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but there are too many books to read. There are too many talks to watch or articles, right? And even if two different people read the same book, they might have two different interpretations on how they should implement this in the organization. And if it's a really big organization, yeah. It's also not limited to the processes in the organization, but it also kind of related to the technologies, right? So as an example, there was a really nice talk 2 years ago in the DevEx from Google that they were telling that if you start writing Kotlin for server, you will have 70% increase in the productivity, and your developer will be more satisfied, like 87%, right? Which is a really nice thing, right? But just imagine that your organization tries to adopt those changes every month, every, I don't know, quarter, right? And what will happen after 3 years? This is our organization, right? This is our organization. But we need to take few steps back to see why do we even need those bureaucracy or processes. Makan.
So let me tell you a story. Soroosh mentioned that the knowledge in the organization plus the automation of the security and also the infrastructure provisioning can have a very positive effect on the predictability of the first time to Hello World. And how the bureaucratic processes can have a negative impact. But also, do we think that bureaucratic processes are also needed in the organization? So this is our life. We start with a very small company, maybe between 10 to 50 people. We have tight collaboration, and for you guys that do remember, 50 people is the maximum number of the people that I can have a close relationship. This is called one of the Dunbar's number. So I'm working with Soroosh. I know Soroosh's favorite color. It's blue. By the way, he's wearing black, but it's blue. And I know what Soroosh is working on. I know the code that he's working on. And if I'm depending on Soroosh's code, I can just pick up the phone and tell him, hey man, there's a problem. I want to go to the production, but I'm depending on your feature. Can you fix it so that we can go together? But the organization grows. and now it's 150 people. And again, based on Dunbar's number, 150 people is the maximum amount of people that I can have a meaningful relationship with. But now, what is the relationship between me and Soroosh? Yeah, we know each other. We bump into each other in the coffee corner. We give each other the periodic update about what is the progress. But now, priorities of Soroosh is different from my priorities. We are working on two different systems. So if I want to have the support of Soroosh, I should go through a specific process to make that happen. Even now, the organization grows. And now we are on the verge of 500 people. This is the number, again, according to Dunbar's theorem, that I can have, or they are called acquaintances. I know them, basically. I know there is a person called Soroosh in the organization, and I know he's working on the system X, but not only I have to go through the processes, but now the processes are shaping my organization. We have different organizational charts. We are working on different departments, different managers, different goals even. We can go one layer even further. Now the organization is there. We have more than 1,000 people, and I no longer know Soroosh. I know there is a system X, and I know there's a functional mailbox, or maybe some kind of support channel that I have to work with. And this is where processes are getting engraved into the organization. But as Adam Jacob mentioned, your organizational structure isn't solving your problem. This is actually an artifact of how you have solved it before. So we start with a process 2 years ago. Then the process shapes the organizational chart. 2 years passed or more. The process is no longer valid, and we want to change that. But now the organizational chart and the organization is resisting against that change. This is how the Conway's law and the reverse Conway law actually works. But apart from all of these processes, the result and the symptoms are very easy to identify. So if you are checking and measuring the first time to hello world, it's getting slower and slower and slower. So you are losing the productivity. Or your developers are trying to cut the corners or find a loophole into the process, not to do the process. Or they are dependent on each other and they cannot deliver the value. Or maybe they are so frustrated with the process that they miss the time that they were only 50 people in a startup. Then you can see that there is something with the process. And usually we have 3 different reasons behind that. Either there's a legacy process that is no longer valid, or as Soroosh mentioned, there are conflicting processes. 2 same process, nearly the same process, started at 2 different parts of the department, and now they are colliding in one type of the department because of mergers. And then there's also super agile organizations who are misusing the agile. Basically, they have everyday changing processes. As a developer, I do my onboarding. I get the knowledge that I need to do the development. When I start the development, the process that I have learned is changed. And instead of doing the development, what I'm doing in the organization is learning the process one after another. And this is our recommendation to this one. Always start with what you want to achieve. This is the most important thing. This is the goal. Before going to the process definition, start with the goal, and then start with the principles. The principles are your guidelines and the criteria of how the optimal solution will look like. Then start with the process, but also think of a process as a living thing. You should always measure it. Not only measure the alignment of the process with the principles, but also the alignment with the goal. Are you getting closer to the goal or not? Is the goal changing? If you are changing something in the environment, or the goal has changed, then your process needs a refinement, and sometimes need a decommissioning as well. Getting back to Soroosh's example on the CAB meeting, always go for proper risk assessment. Yeah, there is a process in the organization that everything that goes to the production needs a CAB meeting, needs a CAB approval. But is it actually based on the risk management? There are 2 different kind of systems. We have the critical systems, and we have the systems that are going once live for the first time. And if you are going for proper risk assessment before the process definition, you will end up with a more natural processes. This is what we call the principle of least surprise. As a developer, you should not be at all surprised about the process. And that brings us to the cohesion. Soroosh.
Thanks, Makan. Cohesion and cohesive journey is also really important to achieving the optimal developer experience. So we'll go through that in the operate. So let's quickly check what actually managers want from us as a developer, right? They want to have a happy customer. They want to have a business continuity. No outages, everything works is really smooth. And the last one is omni-channel support. They want to have many different types of support channels like live chat, phone calls, emails, ticketing system, and they kind of expect us to support the customers via those channels. But this is my life as DevOps engineer. The morning, I start answering some Slack messages. Then I need to go through some emails and reply to the emails. Then I have some messages also in the Teams channels and some meetings. Some people, I don't know, schedule the meetings on Zoom. And then I need to find the answer to the question that I got from in the Confluence backstage in the SharePoint. And some teams, they decided to just write their documentation in a fancy Markdown or ASCII doc in their code repository. Luckily, most of us, they don't need to use Jira and Azure DevOps together. So I need to also pick up my task from the Jira, but there is a support system that I need to also take a look at it like Zendesk, right? And my manager sent me an email that, hey, there is a reminder for the e-learning that you haven't done yet, right? And I have an extra monitor for Grafana and a Splunk. I don't want to open up that. There is also a lot of dashboards in the Power BI and Google Studio that the organization generated, that they shows the cloud cost and the vulnerabilities and et cetera, et cetera. And this is my life. Do you recognize this one? Yeah, I can see. Yeah. So when I raise this problem and highlight this problem that I have in my daily life to my manager, they will tell me that, oh, it's 2024 and there are really nice tools that it's like all-in-one AI-powered developer IDE that can solve all your problems. You don't need to have a lot of applications open in your machine. You can just sit behind your desk in this platform. We can show you everything. You can write your code. You can see the tasks. You can do the PR review. You can ask from ChatGPT, connect to the database, I don't know, log in on the server. There is also a nice monitoring that you can see how the system performs, right? But this is not what I want, and this is not the point of telling this story to my manager, right? So they think that if they just make it in one service, it brings the cohesive journey and a really good experience to me, but that's not true. It's actually distracting me by all these notification badges, right? My dream as a DevOps engineer is to having 3 applications open always on my laptop. A code editor, some sort of to-do list, like even it's Jira or Trello, I don't care. I just want to have one place to pick up my task. And I want to have a communication tool like Teams or Slack or something like that, right? And if I need to check another system, I need to be really to see it in a really clear way that, okay, there is an alert, okay, I will get it on my to-do list that I need to take a look at this alert. Then I will go to Grafana. I need to go to the Confluence or any other system that we have in the organization. But I do not want to refresh the Grafana every 5 minutes or refresh the support ticket system every 5 minutes or answering to the emails that I just got from a really high manager, right? But it's a bit too ambitious, I think. So we have 3 recommendations, and I will go quickly through it. We think that if organization tries to only have one single knowledge management system, it would really, really help. I don't care if the teams wants to write the code in ASCII doc or MD, but at the end, as a manager and also as a developer, I want to be able to search anything that I need to know in one place, right? And for this case, I think we need to have a unified high-level structure for the knowledge management system, like in the Confluence spaces or something like that. And if you have that system for 20 years, you will end up with a lot of outdated documents, right? So there are a lot of possibilities in those systems out of the box that you can define those policies to archive the outdated documents or notify the owner of that document to update it or it will be archived. The second is single support channel. So, well, it's okay. If you want, as a manager, you want to have omni-channel, that's okay, but provide an integration that at the end, if you get a call, email, or whatever, it ends up in the single support channel. I don't need to look at Slack and Teams and every other systems that are available in the organization. And most important, that one, SLA. Because the SLA actually helps me to understand if I need to check that support ticket system every hour, every day, or once a week. Or even if I see a ticket there, do I need to stop my work and try to take a look at it? Or no, that one can wait, right? So SLA is really helpful in bringing the focus for developers. And integration with alerting. I would also like to have that one, and it's really easy to achieve. All these alerting tools can be integrated with the ticketing system and also the task management tool. And the last but not least is single work item management. Some people, all the organizations, they have a Jira or Azure DevOps, right? That's true. But there are also a lot of actions in the MOM of one meeting, or there is a Microsoft Planner somewhere that some people assign some tasks to me, or somebody thought that Miro is really cool. Let's create a Miro board and put some sticky and with name on it, and I need to take action on them. Well, I prefer to have one place to take a look at my task. If I need to review a PR, I want to have a task. If I need to answer a customer, I need to have a task. Everything like that. And this also really helps the managers, right? Because they can also have proper observability and also transparency on how the things are working in the organization. And if we can also merge the ticketing system with the support ticketing system, that would be golden. But even if it's not possible, that I think most probably it's not possible, if there is a proper synchronization and link between these two systems, it's also really lifesaver, that I don't need to maintain two tickets on the two different platforms. Accountability. This is also really important. We want to go through it in a not really interesting phase of the SDLC, which is incident management. So this is a true story. I want to ask you a question. Who has ever fixed one record in the production database by running a query? Okay. Multiple times. Okay. And it always goes well, right? We have been there, right? It's something that I can see that you can recognize. 900 rows affected. And we know what happens, right? So with a lot of tears and blood and a lot of efforts, when we do not have backup, right, we need to see how we can fix the problem, right? And okay, at the end of the day, we'll fix it, right? But in our organization, we will have a nice fancy post-mortem, right, to see what went wrong and how we can learn from it. Okay, we'll have post-mortem, and we will come up with a nice principle, resilience by design. And then we'll come up with process and actions that, okay, let's take a backup every day from the database and also test the backup if it works. Okay, I will do it. That's easy. I will ask a infra team that give me a storage. I will write a nice script, and I schedule it to do the backup every day. That's cool. And the test also pass. Managers also do the compliancy. They will have an Excel sheet that they check if you have a disaster recovery plan, and if you have ever tested that disaster recovery plan every year, right? That's also nice. We're golden. But 2 years later, I'm not sure even I'm the organization or not, right? But in the morning, you will get an alert that, oh, database is down. No problem. We'll create an incident, right? And we start to do the investigation, and it seems like a ransomware attack, right? And okay, no problem. We should not panic because we have a disaster recovery plan and it's well tested. We do the test. We will go through the disaster recovery plan, and we try to restore the backup. But oops, the backup file is corrupted. No problem. We know the responsible team. We will call them. We call the storage team, and you know what? They will give us a really bad answer because the backup was on the same server. It's really sad, right? But I've seen this. If you want to know where, you can ask me later, but not on the record. So what went wrong and what we can learn this time, Makan?
So it's like a blaming game at this point, and we have the usual suspects. I don't know if you guys remember the principles and the process, but we can start from the wrong principle and then end up with like a developer implementing the process in the wrong way. But this is not about the question of which party has done the wrong side of it. It's actually about the accountability. Because somebody decided that the principle of resilience by design is complete and enough for after that postmortem. Somebody else decided that if you have a backup, it will actually fill the objective of the resilience by design, which we all think that, hey, it doesn't. Again, on the compliance, somebody else decided that if you have a disaster recovery plan registered, then you are good to go. But at the end, Me as a developer, the only thing that I want was the green light on the compliance center. And that's when we don't have the accountability. And it's not an accountability from top to the bottom or bottom to the top. It's on both sides. The managers should take the developers accountable for their responsibilities and their decisions. And also the same thing from the developers to the manager side. And we think that, as also Pat Summit mentioned, responsibility and accountability leads to the ownership. And ownership is the most powerful thing that a team or organization can have. And that brings us to the observability. So we have the Tesla's law of the conservation of the complexity. And the idea is that for every process or every system, there is an essential amount of the complexity that cannot be reduced. And we have all of these hypes when you talk to the managers on the platform engineering team, that to reduce the cognitive load, the basic idea is to hide the complexity. Just if I want a VM, I should go to my internal developer portal, ask for a VM, 3 minutes, 4 minutes later, voila, my VM is there. But the thing is that if you do such a thing, you are actually going for the pitfalls of the oversimplification. There may be some hidden failures. Soroosh mentioned about the incident management and how the backup was on the same physical server. If I had the observability that when I'm getting the storage account from the storage team, they are using the same physical server, then I would ring a bell in my mind. Hey, am I doing something correct here? Also, as a developer, I have different personas. Yes, some of the developers just want to get the task done. But some of them thinks that, hey, I want to know what is behind the curtains. And then when everything happens in a very, very nice, non-complex way, I sometimes think that, hey, am I losing control? I don't know what is happening with all of those virtual machines in production. Do I have a proper firewall setup? Do I have a proper firewall rule setup? I don't know. And at the end, sometimes I get a fake sense of the simplicity. This is actually very easy. And also I get the fake compliancy. Yeah, I'm compliant. But at the end, what we are thinking and we are believing is that when you are bringing those services to the engineers, it's very, very important to keep the observability of the complexity. Tell them what is the process. If I want to get the task done, that's OK. But at the same time, this is part of the knowledge within the organization. And it will actually reduce the cognitive load because I don't have to look into other parts to get it done. To give you an example, this is what we talked about. And this is like a very simple demo of how an internal developer portal should look like in the command line tool. So I have a dev tool, and I want to create a project. I give them all of the arguments. I get a loading. 4 minutes later, they tell me, hey, the new repository has been created. What should I do with that? And compare it with this one. Again, the same thing. But now it's telling me that not only I'm checking if you are part of the authorization group or not, but also I'm creating a dev and a main branch, and I'm making the main branch protected, and I'm applying the 4 eyes principle to the main branch, and I'm disabling the permission management. So do not complain if you cannot force push. No, this is part of the principles, and this is part of the policies and the process. And then it comes to this one. We believe that we should not hide or eliminate the complexity. We should manage it. And that's part of the observability, that we tell the developers about everything that is happening behind the curtain. If the developer is interested, they can follow it up. If they are not interested, or it's like 100 times that they have done it, they can just ignore it. And to wrap up everything that we have talked about in this talk, we think that developer experience is about a never-ending process refinement to achieve the balance between the expectation of the managers and the developers. There are 2 sides to this game. While the ultimate developer experience is very, very difficult to achieve based on the 2 sides and having different even metrics, identifying the bad developer experience is very easy. Just identify it one change at a time, one project at a time, try to address it. Your way of addressing it is usually through the processes, through the organizational charts, through some kind of learning materials. But always monitor the processes and focus on the principles, not the process. Process should change, but principles are usually have longer validity to time. And if you are going for defining a journey, keep the journey simple, predictable, cohesive, and seamless. As Soroosh mentioned, this is not about integration of all of the user interfaces in one user interface and then some magical AI in the background telling me everything. No, this is actually about a cohesive journey through processes and data. As a developer, I want to feel in control, and I want to have the focus on the process, not going through a lot of things. And keep each other accountable for the decisions. If you are making the decision, you are accountable for that. It doesn't matter on which level of the organization you are. And last but not least, observability is the key. Do not hide the complexity and do not oversimplify the process. Thank you, guys.